Hi everyone, and welcome to this session on Beyond the Blue Link. My name is Joanne Kearney and I'm Managing Director of Digital Analytics and Marketing Company GlowMetrics. So today what we're going to be looking at is the demise of the blue link. And then we'll talk about how generative AI has started to take a little bit of a chunk of our organic traffic. We'll also talk about what AI is saying about your business, and we'll look at some examples of that. Then we'll talk about how to optimize for generative AI versus how you would traditionally have optimized for SEO or for Google organic listings. We'll also cover how to measure AI traffic, and I'll give you some examples of tools that you can use to do that. And then we'll finish with a summary. So to get started on this, I think it's useful to look back at how we traditionally searched and what the search page looked like 10 years ago. It's hard to remember back 10 years ago, but it is interesting to see on the right-hand side, this is how a search engine result page or landscape would have looked. You might recall that there was links, small links down the right-hand side, and then you also had some paid links above the organic listings on Google. So we have links down the left or the right-hand side of the page above the organic listings, and the remainder of the page then, and there's actually only one paid search that's appearing above organic listings there. The remainder of the listings there were organic or SEO. And if anyone isn't familiar with the difference between that, those links that are indicated by the ad tag means that that advertiser is actually paying for placement there, whereas everything on the left-hand side, bar the ad appearing at the very top, is organic listings. So if you get visibility there for your site, you don't have to pay Google for that listing. Then fast forward to how that search page looks now, and it's quite different. We have some sponsored results, and we have actually 4 now. When I was performing this search, those 4 results took up the very full of the search engine result page. There's nothing on the right-hand side, so they've done away with sponsored results on the right. But we see the top 4 listings as sponsored results. So that was the full width of the Google result page. And then as I scroll down, I have taken another screenshot to showcase some AI overviews, which we're going to talk about. And then below that was our organic listings. So what we're seeing now is we have a bit more visibility that we can use with paid ads. We don't have the paid ads on the right-hand side. We have up to 4 paid ads along the top. Before then, we potentially start with either organic, or if there's an AI overview, that generally will appear above the organic listings. So how the search engine result page has changed is quite different and interesting to see over the last 10 years. In particular, AI overview, which is supported by Gemini, which is Google's AI platform, allows us to start to see how we might get some 0-click searches. So we can see here when we perform the search, we've got under AI overview, we've got a summary of top mortgage providers, for example, and we don't actually have to click on those in some cases to see the actual rates. So what we're moving to now is a search engine that can give us summarized results without having to actually click to go to the site. And that kind of sets the scene for what we're going to be talking about today. Because traditional SEO was all about getting a click to your website. You'd perform a search, and whether it's paid or organic listens, you would click and you would see a number of results appearing. That could be it could be a PDF, it could be a video that appeared, it could be, like we're seeing here, a Facebook page when we're looking for best electrician in NI, or it could be a third-party site which lists a number of electricians, or it could be, as we see here, CC Electrical. They have their own dedicated site and their own brand, and that's appearing as a result. Now compare that to if we were to use a AI platform like ChatGPT and perform the same search. What we're now seeing is a very different view of results in order to find the best electrician in NI. And what we're now seeing is more a summary and a curated shortlist. So how we actually retrieve information now is much quicker and easier which could be argued through AI platforms like ChatGPT rather than Google, which is has more reliance on the user to actually go through and decide who they actually want to work with. There's a bit more work in that, whereas ChatGPT in this example has give us a nice summary of everything. So we don't need to do as much research as we did before. And that's really the new language of intent. Where on search, we might have used the terms plumber Belfast. Now we're seeing more of a move to AI platforms. And because that is more conversational, because it's providing us with results that are created and summarized, and they're giving us recommendations. Users' queries is also changing in how we use AI platforms versus traditional search to retrieve our information. So it might be, for example, who is the most reliable plumber in North Antrim for emergency boiler repair? And we've some other examples there, HVAC reviews, which we might search on Google. Now we might search, compare the top 3 HVAC companies near me based on response time and price. Another example we have there is searching Google for electrician cost. Now the queries that we use on AI platforms could be a bit more specific because we know that that's the type of results that AI platforms can give us. So it might be something more around, I need a certified electrician who can install an EV charger and offers a warranty. Who should I hire? And we're really looking towards AI platforms to cut to the chase and give us exactly what we need. So all this comes back to looking at generative AI. So we kind of understand the landscape and how Google search and how users use Google search versus AI platforms can be quite different. If we're looking at AI platforms, what we're really looking at is generative AI, and that's where generative information retrieval represents a significant evolution in how information systems locate and deliver answers. So instead of pointing to documents like traditionally Google search would do, these advanced systems synthesize information from multiple sources and try to directly address a user's requirement in a comprehensive and coherent manner. And it's really shifting the responsibility to the large language models to understand what we're looking for and to give us an answer rather than us having to do the work. AI can now understand, contextualize, and generate responses based on user intent. So it could be argued that they're a little bit smarter with how they deliver information retrieval. So who are the markets? So when we're talking about using these platforms, I'm sure everyone will have used at least one of these before. We are talking about ChatGPT generally being the most commonly used. It by far in the UK has the biggest market share at 78%. Now, it does seem to be declining in this research. It was down from around 86% in early 2025. And that's due to some of the other AI platforms becoming more prominent than they were back at just over a year ago. And this is, a market atmosphere that's changing quite quickly and expanding quite quickly as well. So you see the likes of Microsoft Copilot, Perplexity, Google Gemini, and Claude also either remaining stable or in many cases increasing in market share. And ChatGPT was the very first, most publicized AI platform on and available on the market. So a lot of people did, that was their introduction into AI platforms, generally started with something like ChatGPT. But as more platforms have come onto the market and I suppose offered different aspects, or in some cases like Microsoft Copilot, have been integrated more into software that we use on a daily basis, you'll see the market shifting slightly. But ChatGPT, by far and for most markets, certainly in Europe, leads the way in AI market share. Google still holds 93% of traditional search market share in the UK. However, we're starting to see that Google organic traffic starting to leak away. And again, that's due to a shift in zero-click results, where users are given a bit more information so they don't necessarily need to click on a Google search result to go to a site. Or it can also be the prominence of the use of AI platforms to retrieve information. Social search is another one as well, of course, where users will also rely on social platforms to retrieve information and recommendations as well. And this is kind of a summary of those that I've mentioned there: ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, Copilot, and Claude. And I have listed here what the primary identifier is of each of those. So if you're looking for something that is very good at creative, ChatGPT and actually Gemini have done a lot of work in their system as well to support creative building. You'll see Copilot is commonly used as an office assistant, commonly used by Microsoft 365 users. So from a workspace point of view, because of the integration available there with Microsoft software, that tends to garner a lot of popularity. And then we have Perplexity and Claude as well. Again, Claude being more for coding, long form writing, data analysis, and Perplexity for being fact-finding and real-time research driven. But if we're looking at kind of what we're ranking in the big three, and I'm going to go into this in a bit more detail when we then talk about how we can actually get ranked. But ChatGPT places a lot of focus on brand mentions. So it will look at where your brand has been mentioned, not necessarily on your site, but also in terms of third-party sites, what people are saying about you and how they talk about your business. Perplexity also focuses on citations. So it'll use external sources as well, like Google My Business and Yelp for reviews. Gemini is, I suppose, traditionally being a Google product, it focuses on content more so, and making sure that that content is expert, it has authority, and it's trustworthy. So we'll talk a bit about those, but that's kind of what I would say is the things that I talk about today. If you look at them and if you improve them and if you focus on them, they will help ranking in any of these platforms. But when it gets down to intricacy around these platforms. Some platforms focus on some aspects more than others. We also have something called AI overviews, and like I showed you at the start, this is driven by Gemini. And this is what you might see appearing when you perform a search on Google. So I've searched for best flat roof repairs. We'll see two listings there, which are sponsored roofers. And then we also see our AI overviews as well. So just to also, I suppose, support that, we've got our separate AI platforms like ChatGPT, which is a separate domain which we can go to and perform our searches. But there's also cases where these AI platforms support aspects of other products that those AI platforms have. And this example is where Google, we search on traditional Google, we are actually seeing some Gemini generated responses in AI overviews here. And you might remember when Gemini was first released, and still to this day, there's always cases where people are finding non-factual or debatable answers that AI overview provides. And this isn't just for AI overviews, it's also results across multiple platforms that maybe isn't 100% accurate or you shouldn't rely on. And I think this really comes back to making sure that we also consider the human element, and that we use our own intelligence to take what we need from AI platforms and leave the rest. But these are two very popular examples from AI overviews where someone asked, how many rocks shall I eat? And AI overviews was recommending at least one small rock per day, because they're a source of mineral and vitamins that are important for digestive health. And in another example, we have smoking while pregnant. If we searched on that, AI overviews was recommending that we smoke 2 to 3 cigarettes per day during pregnancy. And again, another example, how long ago was 1919? And AI overviews was telling us it was 20 years ago. So again, I think that's just a bit of insight into what can go wrong. And I think in the context of what we're talking about here, that is very important to keep in mind. But let's have a look at what AI is saying about your business. And, the best way really to analyze this and to make sure that the content that it's finding and citations are accurate is to simply do a search. So if we take an example of best fire audit companies in Northern Ireland, we can see some results that are placed there. So we see Fire Safety Solutions NI are the very first result that appears there. And that's listed under our top fire audit and fire risk assessment companies in Northern Ireland. And we see some others appearing there. And you'll see it's quite hidden, but there is a link then to that site. But at a very, again, top line view, I can see, without having to do very much research, I can see 5 results or 5 companies there that ChatGPT has found are recommended. On the right-hand side then, best HVAC solutions, Belfast. And again, it's telling us the highly rated HVAC and climate control specialists that are listed there as well. So again, a really good example of giving us a nice summary of the companies that they have found that they'd recommend to a user. Okay, and if we look at how other examples or queries populate results, a more general one maybe, can you recommend solar panel installers in NI? And again, it's given us the top solar panel installers and renewable energy experts in Northern Ireland. Now, obviously, if you were a solar panel installer and you focused on renewable energy through solar panels, it's really important again that you ensure that your site is appearing there, or if you're not appearing, again, who is appearing in those results. And it's the same with business process outsourcing in NI. Again, it gives us a couple less examples there, alongside local and regional outsourcing and business support providers as well. But again, if you're not there, that's important. And if you are there, that's important because it's important to understand the narrative around how ChatGPT is finding your business, especially in relation to how it is being recommended and cited in their platforms. Okay, another example I've used here is, can you tell me everything you know about field motion? And if there's one thing you to do today, I'd recommend you go and do that for your own brand and through the AI platform, because again, this is one excellent way of understanding the information that's out there. And you'll see that in the citations, and again, I'm using ChatGPT, they aren't all field motion links. So you can't rely on the information that you simply have on your site. There's links to other sites here, that third-party sites that field motion might also not realize are being mentioned, or field motion is being mentioned maybe on those sites. So it's really important to understand what they're saying, make sure that it's trustworthy and truthful. And again, it starts you on a journey to see how you're being mentioned, and again, kind of feeds into that really online reputation management type exercise. But again, even with this was only the first two elements of a long list of results around field motion from this single query. But it's important to understand not just what they're saying, but actually the order in which they're telling you about that business as well. Are those the important things that you want people to know? But overall, is it accurate information? Because if it's not, then it's about going back to the source of where that's being pulled from and making sure that you control the narrative as much as possible to make sure that it's as accurate as possible. So if we look at SEO versus GEO, and this is all about how do I actually now, knowing that search volume has started to shift towards AI platforms, knowing that there is a market there, knowing that Google and other AI platforms like ChatGPT have started to crawl data on my business. What are the things that I can do to try and optimize that? And some of you might be familiar with the traditional pillars of SEO, which is all about getting your site ranked higher on search engines. A lot of that focuses on some technical aspects, some content or on-page aspects, and then some link building or off-page aspects as well. Now, what I'm going to focus on is not that, because that mostly relates to search. What are the things that I can help, or that I can do to help my site rank higher on AI platforms? And again, this is a short session, so I'm going to give you an overview of some of the three things. But this really, and in doing client audits around AI insights, a lot of the recommendations, strategic recommendations, boil down to these three things: citation mining, schema markup, and content hubs. So what exactly does that mean? So citation mining comes back to, in looking at how we view where we're being cited. Okay, so that citation is all about third-party providers that have mentioned the business. And in 2026, it said 85% of brand mentions originate from third-party pages, not your own website. And if you think about how AI tools and platforms try to disseminate data and provide, created recommendations, they're going to try to be as human as possible, because that's the one thing that they aren't. They're not human. So what they tend to rely on is if they're making, for example, recommendations or they're giving you a created list that will be helpful to you, they're also going to want to know what users out there think or feel about a brand. So it's all about external validation. And again, that might happen on your site where you have reviews or you have client testimonials, and that's important. But they also look at, okay, well, what is the narrative around things that you can't control on your site? What are people saying on forums or on trade sites about your brand? And they'll use that as information to train their models to come up with the best recommendations. So, for example, this can go from industry-specific directories like Check a Trade to even user-generated forums like Reddit. And again, I'm going to show you tools on how you can track this, but from a very simple point of view, you can go on to these sites and search for your brand to see what actually comes up. Reddit is a forum where lots of people talk about different brands and news and lots of different topics. But again, in this case, I've searched for best HVAC solutions Belfast, and we see a number of results there. The more frequently you're mentioned across diverse high authority sites, the higher your recommendation share. And AI platforms can pick up sentiment and share voice analysis from that. We also have schema markup, which I mentioned was a kind of second element to GEO or optimizing for AI platforms. And this goes a bit more technical. So I'm not going to go into this too much, but what I'd say is in the back of your site, so in the coding of your site, there is essentially a way to put labels against certain content to identify to the AI platforms when they crawl and they view and they find the information on your site, what exactly that bit of content is about. So, for example, if you have text around or images or videos around a local business versus a service offering versus organization details versus FAQs that you have on your site, you can add a bit of text or a bit of code behind that, and that's called structured data or schema markup to pin a label on a piece of content. So the AI platforms, when they review it, they understand, okay, that is detail that is about the organization, or that is detail relating to specific services that they have. Again, it's a bit more technical and it requires a bit of developer knowledge, but it's something that AI platforms use to understand context behind text and details or images or videos that's on a site. And lastly, then it's also very much about content, and that hasn't changed from traditional SEO to GEO. Actually, providing solutions to user problems is important. Using conversational language on your site is important. Having lists, direct answers, actionable advice is important when you're thinking about content. And using long tail intent-based keywords. And again, the content that you have on your site, that needs to be written based on what people are actually looking for. But Google also favor content that shows firsthand knowledge, that shows accuracy and is comprehensive, and that is linked to a credible source. So it's written by a principal solutions technologist, for example. And it's trustworthy as well. So having that social proof elements, having all of that on the content that you write on your site is also important for AI platforms. especially, always collect those client testimonials, partner logos, star ratings, trust badges. Again, that all speaks to that content and your brand being trustworthy, authoritative, having experience and expertise as well. So how do you actually measure AI traffic? So there is a lot of zero-click searches. So again, when you're thinking of AI, you're not necessarily always thinking of, well, who's seen that and has actually clicked to go to the site? Because sometimes people just simply get enough information without having to actually visit a site. But if they do click to visit your site, you can see that in analytics, in your Google Analytics reports. So I've listed here again, some of you may or may not use Google Analytics as your analytics platform, but you can scroll down to session or traffic source and medium, and that will indicate the AI platform that traffic has came from. So if you wanted to see, well, how many people are actually using AI platforms and then getting to our site, there's a report in analytics, and I've added a screenshot there where you can find that. But for AI measurement, it's a little bit more wider than that. Because again, there's so many people that use AI that will find you as a recommendation, but maybe not click to get more information on your actual site. So we need to take a step back to understand, well, what are the ways that I can measure that, I suppose, visibility and influence that my site being listed on AI platforms is having. And SEMrush is the tool that we use. SEMrush has an AI insight element to it, which provides strategic recommendations around how you can improve visibility of your site. And in this example, we've got stats which show our total AI visibility, and that's measured against AI platforms. And then we've also stats like share of voice and sentiment that can also be provided through a tool like SEMrush. You can also see what people commonly like to know is common questions, prompts, and topics that people are adding to AI platforms. And I've mentioned here on the right-hand side, just to remember, 60% of AI searches are zero clicks. So what are the KPIs that you're looking at? Okay, so you might track some traffic that people have clicked on your site to get through and be tracked in analytics. But actually, outside that, you might look at sentiment, your share of voice in AI results, how many citations you've featured in AI platform results, and link attribution. So how many times your links has appeared in AI results as well. Those are some common KPIs to measure AI impact. Okay, so to summarize on that, and I'm moving away from those blue links, we've talked about GEO today, and there's some similarities between how we rank on search engines and how we rank on AI platforms. But remember, the focus for SEO is all to do with ranking on search engines. For GEO, it's about being included in AI results. Some of the tactics are similar. They focus on content, they focus on citation and backlinks. GEO has a particular focus on credibility and trustworthiness. And then if we look at traffic and influence for SEO, it's very much a user searches. They might click on a link to get to your site and might convert. Whereas with GEO, it's more influenced by brand mentions and AI citations. So to finish up, what are the next steps? So again, you don't have to spend any money to do this. I would audit your mentions, search for your business in Gemini, search for your business in ChatGPT, search for your business in Perplexity. ChatGPT and Gemini are the tools that we mostly focus on. Have a look, see what it says about your brand, and are you happy with what it says and where is the information coming from? Commonly done is positioning against competitors. So it might be useful to say, why should I choose field motion over its nearest competitors, and see what weakness it might find. Look at your content, create content that answers, should I go with field motion as a provider? How much does go in with field motion costs, rather than just what is. So think about the questions that people want to know about your business, and see what they're searching for on AI platforms. And you do that through a tool like SEMrush, and then build content out based on that, so you have a higher chance of appearing on AI results. And again, high quality recent reviews fuel AI engines. So it has never been more important, I think, to look at reputation management and how people talk about you across the web. So thinking about sentiment is also really important if you want to rank in AI platforms. Okay, and that finishes our session for today. Again, lots of information there, but I wanted to describe how we've moved from 10 blue links on a page to now search becoming something that is simpler, more created through AI platforms. We still find with a lot of clients, organic search is always, for the time being anyway, is always going to be, when we look at client accounts, the highest portion of traffic driver to a site. But we're starting to see traffic from AI platforms increasing. So companies are starting to think, well, how are my customers using AI platforms to search, to retrieve information? And then I've give you tips on how some things you can do on your site or external to your site to help improve the opportunity to rank and to be found and to be visible in AI platforms when a customer comes to start their information journey. If there are any questions, you can follow us on socials. We're across quite a few there. And if you do have any other questions or would like to discuss this further, you can contact me at joanne@glowmetrics.com.